I'm going to give you a quick introduction to Xcode. Let's bring it up. This is the splash screen that you will see. It's a handy screen. There is a shortcut to start a new project. If you have been working on some recent projects, it will appear here on the right hand side. From this screen, let's click on create a new Xcode project. The first screen it will show you is an option to select different types of application. If your app is a page-based application or a tabbed application, you can choose the appropriate option. To begin with, we are going to start developing single view application. On the left hand side here, you can see we are developing for iOS, but you could develop for OS X or watchOS as well. So with iOS application selected, I have the single view application selected in this pane. I'm going to hit next. It's asking for a product name. I'm going to start with Hello World. Organization name, it'll initially show up empty for you. You can put in whatever name you would prefer. Same for the organization identifier. Rest it fill up the bundle identifier. It creates by itself. Language, you have the option for Swift or Objective-C. We'll go with Swift. You can develop a universal app that would work on all screen sizes. That's all iPad or iPhone, or you can select individually either iPhone or an iPad. For now, I have iPhone selected. You can use core data. We won't bother ourselves with it for now. Xcode 7 has also added the option to include unit tests and UI tests. We'll leave all that unchecked for now. We'll go on to next. It's asking where to save it on your computer. I have a folder called Build an App with Me on my desktop. I have that. I'm not going to create a Git repository for now. Uh, with the basics selected, I'm going to say create. Once you do that, you will see that it first brings you to an area where you can enter some metadata about the app itself. You'll see some of the values that we already entered. For now, I'm going to leave everything as the default. What's important to notice on the left-hand side, it provides you a navigation pane, and you can select all the different files that it has automatically created for you. I'll quickly go over to main.storyboard. Storyboard is the visual development area. So if you want to have some UI elements like image, button, label, this is the place where you will drag and drop it, arrange it, make it look good, and all that visual stuff. That is main.storyboard. You can see viewController.swift. That is the actual code that's going to make whatever you create in the UI useful or interactive. Or here is where you will write code to what should happen when you click a button or when you scroll and any related code. So by default, this one file is created for you, and the first storyboard is created for you as well. Let's focus on the storyboard area. What you see over here is the area. It's a little big, so I can select it and say that I want to work on an area that's more similar to an iPhone 4-inch, right? This fits nicely in on my screen. So that's the area I selected. With that selected, what you see here on the right hand side is an area where any information regarding the element that you select on the storyboard would appear. So if it's a label, if it's a button, whatever you select, this area is going to change with the properties of that particular element. Here at the bottom, it allows you the option to drag and drop various elements. As you can see, this is a huge scrollable list. Right, let's start with a label. I'm going to drag one and drop it here. As you drop it, you can see it provides you some indication as to whether it's centered or not, right? So put it there, expand it a little bit. like I had mentioned, on the right hand side, what you see over here is all the properties of this particular label. You can see it change. When I select the view controller, uh, you can see different options that come up here. When I select the label, these are the properties of the label. Let's say I wanted the text on the label to be hello world. I can do that here. Let's say I want it centered. This option would let me do that. So on and so forth. You can select your color, font, and all other properties that are related to that element. So you can see that we added a label hello world to it. Now Xcode also provides you the option to view the code and the visual area side by side, right? And that's something called assistant editor that will bring up by clicking on this two overlapping circle icon over here. Here you can see the code is visible, and here is the label that we just added. Now if you need more real estate, you can use these buttons. I'm going to hide the right hand side, and there you go. Maybe the left hand side navigation pane as well. There you go. It's neatly, you have the UI elements and the code on the right hand side. Now this screen on the right hand side, you can also choose to view a preview of how it will look on the actual device. So I'm going to select preview main storyboard, and this is an indication of how it's going to actually look on a device. You might be wondering, the left hand side and the right hand side looks pretty similar. What is the difference here? The difference is that on the left hand side, it's a universal working area. Let's say you are building an iPad, a common app for an iPad and an iPhone. You might have this area look much larger, and that's where you will work. Elements that appear on this screen here and how you lay it out is not necessarily how it would appear on the phone. So I make it a habit to preview how it will look on the phone real quick over here. You can also change the orientation to landscape or portrait. Here, this shows you an example of what I was talking about. Here, Hello World is nice and centered, but in this orientation, it's not. And that's something that you get to view quickly in this preview. Now, let's say we wanted the text to be nice and centered in any orientation and on any screen size, be it iPad or an iPhone or different sizes of the screens on those devices. How would we achieve that? For that, Xcode has something called auto layout. Here's how it works. You select the element, and then here at the bottom you can see a small icon that looks like a small space station. You can it's called pin. Click on it and it will bring you an option to add some constraints. So what we're trying to achieve is this label needs to be at a constant height from the top, no matter what the device, no matter what the orientation. So I select this. You can also select either left, right, or bottom, however you want to pin this element onto the device. Here I'm indicating that I want the height from the top to be constant at all time. That's at 62 pixel. I'm going to say add this constraint, and you can see some visual indication of that is added. But look at what happened on the right hand side over here. The label jumped to, and it's sticking now to the left hand side of the screen. That is not exactly what we wanted, but what we have achieved here is the height from the top is going to be fixed, right? And so Xcode handles that for you. Now, how do we make this hello world label to be centered and have it centered on all devices and all orientation? For that, you will click on this small align icon here at the right hand bottom corner of your storyboard area. Once you click on align, you can see a few options. These are the ones that you cannot select for now, but you can see horizontal in container. That's what we are looking for. If I click on horizontal or in container, it's going to guarantee that this label is always going to be aligned right at the center horizontally within the container. Now the container could be an iPhone or an iPad screen size. Irrespective of that, it's always going to be centered. Let's add that constraint in. And again, you can see some visual indication here. Look at the right hand side. The hello world label now is centered. It's fixed from the top and centered horizontally. What it means is if I change the orientation, it's still going to be centered. No matter what screen size I choose, it's always going to be centered. This is something that Xcode lets you do with what we just did, was called auto layout. It's very convenient. After that, let's go back to viewing the code here, because this is the view you'll be working a lot in, having your visual elements on the left and code on the right. But when you progress, most of the time you'll be spending on the code, and that would be your primary screen. But for now, we have the visual element and the code. Xcode also allows you to view what you have created in in a simulator of the device. So along with Xcode, what Apple provides you is this simulator, which provides you a simulation of all these different devices and all the different screen sizes. You can run your app on any of these screens, and it'll show you how it's going to look visually. It also has the option to actually run this app on a device. If you have your lightning cable connected and your iPhone connected to your Mac, you can actually deploy this app on the device itself. Now, previously, if you wanted to carry your app with you in your phone, you couldn't do that. Xcode, which was released last week, allows you to actually deploy this app on your phone and carry it with you. Previously, you would need a $99 developer account to do that, but not anymore. So that makes developing more fun, because now you can actually build nifty apps here and actually start using it when you're on the go. So let's look at what we just created, and let's try to run it on an iPhone 5s simulator. You do that and you hit the play button over here. And you can see here what it's doing is building all the files. It says build succeeded. Now, if you see on the dock, the simulator is there. You might have to click it to bring it up. And there you go. This is actually your app running in the simulator, and you're thinking, hey, where's my label? I don't see hello world in here. Scroll up and you can see it's right there. Now see, this scrolling is a bit annoying. That is because for whatever reason, the simulator is not the actual scale size to an iPhone 5s. To remedy that, I go to Window. I'm going to view it at 50%. So this is more like it, right? So this is your first app running on an iPhone 5s simulation. If you connect it with a lightning rod to an actual phone, it will deploy on your phone as well. There are some neat tricks here with the simulator. You should explore that. You can go to hardware and simulate some of the gestures, like a shake gesture, or if you want to rotate it left, or rotate it back right. It allows you to do all of that. Do explore a little bit of what the simulator would allow you to do. But this is a small, you can almost think of it as a small iPhone within your Mac, where you can actually see everything running. Quite handy. Let me quit the simulator. You can also quit it by hitting the stop button over here, and this is back to our code. So today what you learned was some basics of Xcode, and now you know enough to start developing some simple apps, testing it on a simulator, and actually deploying it on your phone and taking it with you. In some of the future videos, I'll show you how the apps would actually look on the phone. But you have all the knowledge now to get started with your initial apps.